Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. I am your host, Megan Hardy, and I am joined today by a very special guest, Christina McClurken, who is a functional nutrition and metabolism coach with a very unique background working as a PT in a traditional healthcare setting with geriatric patients. So, Christina has a unique perspective and understanding on just how important it is to take care of our health and overall stress management and is going to share some of her knowledge with us today. So, Christina, thanks for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, if you would, I know we talked a little bit before starting recording, but if you would just share with everyone a little bit about you personally and also how you got into the coaching space, a little
Yeah,
bit of your background.
absolutely. So currently I'll be 45 in a month, which is like, or 2 months, which is crazy. I've got three kids. My oldest is 13 and I have twin 10-year-olds. So busy mom, running my own business as a health coach. But gosh, what landed me here is I always say it kind of comes from the like two roads merging together. And so I feel like the first road was being raised in a household with dieting. I was a child of the 80s, obviously, and so my mother was always on some sort of diet, no fault to her own. It was the time culture of the time, right? Whether it be grapefruit for her meals or Weight Watchers or cabbage soup or something like that. I literally remember her, if anybody, I'm dating myself, remembers back when Weight Watchers literally had like a cardboard slider and you would like slide these numbers to line up like the protein and the fiber. And I mean, I saw that stuff in high school. I was an athlete myself, so I was never actively dieting, but I was just observing. Sometimes we were Italian, so like pasta was a complete meal for dinner every night. And sometimes
Yeah.
my mother would make us dinner and we'd sit down to the table and she wouldn't eat. And we'd be like, why aren't you eating? And, she said, I had a candy bar for lunch. I was bad. So it's like, I kind of learned at the time, it didn't make any sense to me. As I got older and into dieting, made me learn like, oh, I ate something bad, so I should skip a meal or deprive myself. Right. So, again, just very observational growing up. But then when I went to college, I was going to school for my physical master's in physical therapy. And of course, I gained the freshman 15 in like the first 15 minutes because I was an athlete. And then all of a sudden I was studying all the time, sitting in classes and eating, like dining hall food. Um,
What
so
were you, what sports did you do?
softball, that was my
Softball.
primary thought. Yeah. And now my daughter plays, which is like full circle to watch her. It's like crazy. But so anyway, I was, going for my master's degree in healthcare, but not treating my body with any sort of respect, eating what I wanted, drinking 4 nights a week probably, and um, but it wasn't really until I got out of college and I started working in the field that I really kind of had my first awakening. So I thought I went to school because I wanted to, rehab people's knees and stuff. It turns out I really had a love for like the medical aspect and working in rehabs. So I started working in rehabs where people had, joint replacements, hip replacements, knee replacements, they had strokes, heart attacks, just spinal cord injuries, all that sort of stuff. And I loved it. But one thing that stood out to me is I remember I'd be like getting my patients for treatment in the morning and they'd be, taking their cup of pills after breakfast, which was like a second breakfast, right? I mean, they had every past medical history known to man, every 3-letter lifestyle disease, like heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, everything. And it was like, wow, I was a 24-year-old girl and I was like, I do not want to live like this. Um, but unfortunately, my perspective on health was like Kate Moss was like,
Yeah.
what you should look like. So I did just my pursuit of health. It's like, oh, I should, cut calories and exercise some more. So, my 5'2" self downloaded my fitness pal and it told me I should eat like 1,000 calories a day to lose weight. And oh, but if I burn some, I could earn some food. So then I was started eating very little and then trying to like, burn 500 calories on the elliptical or the treadmill. And that turned into, yes, I lost weight, but it turned into a very terrible relationship with food. I had a habit of like restricting all day because I was busy, I was moving, I wasn't thinking about it. And then I'd come home, I'd have my dinner, my perfect day at 1,200 calories, and I'd probably eat another day's worth of food between, dinner and bedtime because I was just very hungry. And I would wake up and I would feel so bloated and, oh, I'm never going to do that again. So I would like not eat much during the day and it just perpetuated the cycle. But what I know now, I also did to myself is cause a lot of metabolic dysfunction. I did not know it at the time. I was not exposed to this, but I lost my period from
Mhm.
under eating. And then I had hypothyroid. So I did not realize at that age all of these things were connected. And then when I went to try to have kids, we couldn't have kids. So I had to do fertility treatment. So I often say, dieting cost me like $15,000 and almost a family, which is really unfortunate. And so if I only knew then what I knew now, I really kind of correlated the fact that these extreme diets and these measures I was taking to transform my body were actually turning into health issues in myself. And here I was doing this because I didn't want to have future health issues that I was observing in my patients. And so now my mission is to help bring that to light for a lot of women and help them understand that, yes, it's okay to have body composition goals and want to transform yourself, but health first, because if not, if done the wrong way, too extreme or for too lengthy of a period of time, your body will pay in some way.
For sure. Oh my gosh. And I think I love that you have that personal experience with it where, because I feel like that ends up being the case for a lot of women is they're going for the like, okay, I'm actually trying to avoid, you were literally working with geriatric,
Yeah.
patients. I'm trying to avoid this health thing and I want to be in great shape too. But then exactly what you're doing to try to get into, great shape or leaner shape is the exact thing that's creating some of these health
Correct,
issues.
correct. And I think, I always say my mission right now with my coaching and my business is to bring together weight loss and optimal health, because I think that we're in a very weird age where you almost feel like I'll talk to potential clients and like, I know I should just want to be healthy, but I also want to look good. I'm like, you can want both. Like it doesn't mean it's, kind of like uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Like a shallow goal to want to look good. Cause I mean, I firmly believe that our confidence when we walk and carry ourselves away, that exudes into our relationships, into our career, into everything. You have the right to be fully confident in your skin, whatever you define that as. But I think there's so much diet prey out there that are preying on these women's desires to do that are then not without the understanding that, yes, those kind of things, extreme measures can cause a lot of, detrimental things happening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I would love to hear, like, in your opinion, which came first, like, even with, because you had hypothyroidism, right?
Hypothyroid, yeah. Mhm.
And which came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, a lot
No
of
doubt
people,
it was from
yeah.
dieting. Now that I
Yeah.
know what I know as a functional nutritionist, it's like that, you can only under eat and not give your body what it needs for so long before it starts to, I mean, the first things that happen are things we won't even notice, right? You'll fidget less, you'll blink less, all, things we don't even notice. Our body is so smart that it will down regulate because it knows it has to save energy somewhere. But eventually that stuff is not enough. And then it has to pull from really energy expensive systems of your body, like your thyroid, like your reproductive system, eventually immunity, digestion. And so all of those things are what I like to say, the language of your metabolism. So when you start having issues like that, it's like, your body's trying to like knock some sense in you, say, listen to me, like I'm showing you these symptoms because something is wrong here. But we're so used to shoving it under the rug, or also just thinking that it's normal, when really just because it's common amongst a lot of people right now, that does not mean it's normal for what your body should be doing to function.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And there's even with hypothyroidism, I mean, I can't tell you how many potential clients and people I talk to who are like, oh yeah, I'm hypothyroid. I'm hypothyroid. I'm like,
Mhm,
this
mhm.
is like this is did not used to be
Yeah,
this common. And there's definitely
no.
a common theme though with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that can come from, history of dieting, but also the toxic burden that our bodies carry now with things that are in our food and our plastics and in all of our, I mean, that's like a whole nother topic to go down. But your body, like I don't know if you've ever heard of the book. I think it's Louise Hay is the author, but it's like your body keeps the score or something. It's like your body
Mm.
will always be kind of having a checks and balances. It's like, well, if you're putting this in, I got to process this somehow. And that's work, right? It's like your car and your check engine light comes on. That's what all these symptoms are. It's like the check engine light, except if you don't know to check your engine or you're not listening, like eventually like that car is going to stop running.
Yeah, if you're just putting duct tape over your
Yeah,
dashboard because you don't like
exactly.
what it
Yeah.
says.
Because you can't see the light. Yeah. It doesn't mean it's not shining underneath there.
I actually have not read the book, but that's like one of my assistant coaches. Her favorite saying is "Your body
Yeah.
keeps the score,"
Yeah.
and
Yes.
she's
Yeah.
like, even with talking with clients, sometimes like maybe don't want to share that they had a binge or something like that,
Mhm,
and she's like,
mhm.
one, it's only helpful if you share that with us because
Yeah.
that's only gonna help us
Yeah.
help you. But then secondly, your body keeps the score, so you're
Right.
not
Exactly.
lying.
You're not hiding from anyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I also have to ask you too, a side note and rewinding, but
Yeah.
how was it? I'm pregnant right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
as at the time of recording this, I'll be a little further, or like the time this
Oh,
releases, it'll be along.
congratulations. So
Thank you.
exciting.
But I'm like 20 weeks right now.
Mhm.
But my husband always jokes, like, yeah, twins. And I was like, do not wish that on me. How did
No.
your twin experience go?
Well, oh my gosh. And so listen, I told you on the before, I'm an open book and no holds barred. So first of all, I mean, I had to go through fertility, which if anyone's listening and on a fertility journey, I feel like women are so hesitant to talk about it, but it needs to be talked about because it is a very shocking experience. It's like, you spend your whole young adult life trying not to get pregnant and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you can't. And then it becomes like a science experiment. I feel like it takes the romance out of it. You're like, injecting yourself and looking at numbers and being so, from that regard, but with my first, we lucked out and only had one. We got BOGO the second time around. So my experience was this with twins. I knew from the beginning because with my first, because you're monitored, like I knew that it was coming because we had the procedure, but I didn't feel good, but I didn't feel awful at first. But then with the second, it was like 2 weeks in and I was like, I don't feel good. I said to my husband, there's two in there. Of course he says, oh, there's not two. I said, listen, listen. And so I knew I did not want twins. My goal was to I'm a very goal-oriented person. I plan everything. I wanted two kids, right? Because it's me, my sister and I, it's just two of us and we're very close. So I did not want a third kid. And then of course the planner in me, that's how most women can appreciate it. I was like, we need a bigger car. We're going to need a bigger house. We don't have room for this. So when we went for the ultrasound, I remember telling the ultrasound tech, just so that if you say it's twins, I'm going to cry and they're probably not going to be happy tears. I think I just want to let you know. And so she starts doing the ultrasound and she's like, are you ready to cry? And then of course I lost it. And then my
Oh my God.
husband's like, stop it. Babies. Like he was so excited. I'm like, the planner in me is like, oh my God, the diapers, the daycare, the house, the car. But I will tell you, they are a blessing. And I do think from a type A type person, it was like the gift that I needed to be able to say, like, you just can't do it all on your own. Like, be open to asking for help, be open to things not being done perfectly. And yeah, and now I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, like
Oh.
the two of them are they're totally different. My kids are full of personality and yeah, it's a fun life, but man, the younger years were challenging, especially with a
Yeah.
3-year-old and then twin newborns.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just can't believe that's so crazy. You knew
Yeah,
before
I
going to the
just
ultrasound.
knew. Yeah. And then forget it. Then I was sick the whole time. But like, like I said, you know, I feel like there was a reason for it. Cause like I said, I was that kind of like, I'll just do it all myself. My husband had worked nights at the time. So I was like, working full time and teaching in a gym and coaching and I had my 3-year-old and I'm like, well, one more, I guess I'll just add to it. And then I was like, nope, things are going to change.
Nope. It's like we
Yeah.
make plans and God laughs at them. And you're
Yeah,
like, okay.
exactly. Yeah. Best laid plans.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and speaking of the fertility, and we'll hop
Yeah.
into our topics, but I love that you pointed that out too, because it's like you're trying for so long to not get pregnant. And
Yeah.
then you actually are trying to start a family,
Mhm.
realizing that it's actually a lot harder than you thought.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my husband actually just showed me a reel the other day of a experiment. They were up on a hill and they poured out like I think it was like 1,000 golf balls or something, and trying to see out of a box right
Right.
down and trying to see if how many would land in the hole. There was a hole at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
one landed in the
Yeah.
hole. Out
Right.
of they were like, this
And
is your
that's what it's
sperm
like,
trying to
right?
beat
Yeah.
that.
I
They were
know.
like, yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy.
But would you share with everyone, like, so in that whole vein, and like, I love
Hmm.
from your perspective of like working with geriatric patients, like coming through some of this yourself and doing it the not so healthy way, and now having like the body composition and the health, because you
Hmm.
can do both. Like, talking, one of the big things is just stress management, because I think that's something, especially I know a lot of my clients, a lot of the women I talk to really want to overlook this and just look at workouts and even
Hmm.
nutrition, but
Hmm.
primarily also workouts.
Yeah.
And just like they think more is better.
Yes.
And sometimes that's not the case. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of take it back to, and some of this might be repeat for you and your listeners, but I think I take it back to the basic lie that we've been taught that weight loss is just calories in, calories out, or basically that's how our metabolism is a calculator. Because of course, calorie deficit does matter. I'm not arguing that for weight loss, but your metabolism is not a calculator. If it were that simple, I always say anybody with a calculator would be at their ideal weight. And there's a reason that we're not.
Yeah.
So your metabolism actually acts more like a thermostat. And I kind of, you know, think about your house. Like, let's just say right now it's set at 68 degrees, right? And if it gets down to 66, that's a stressor on the temperature. It wants to bring you back to homeostasis, so the heat kicks on. If the heat's on too long, it gets up to 70, that's again a stressor. It's not where homeostasis is. It kicks off to bring you back down to that set point. So your metabolism works the same way. It has its natural set point, and any deviation from that is a stressor. And so your metabolism acts like a stress barometer and essentially like a thermostat, where it's like, if there's any deviation, it's going to try like heck to bring you back to homeostasis. Now, what most women don't realize is that a big deficit between calories in and calories out is a stressor both ways, whether you're severely under eating or severely overeating, like that's a stressor. And so what's going to happen is your body's going to try to mitigate that stress by, like I said, down regulating things in your body, like happened to me. But that's not the only form of stress on your metabolism. So yes, perceived stress matters, like work is crazy. I was stuck in traffic. My kids are driving me crazy. I've got, a project due. Those are all stressors. So the same thing will happen in terms of your metabolism not wanting to release any weight. And also causing health issues. But also things like not sleeping well is a stressor. That's a form of circadian stress. Not quality food is a form of a toxic load for your body, like we kind of talked about in the beginning, like having to process. So your metabolism is constantly is basically a stress and energy manager is what it is. So the energy part of the equation is the calories in, it's trying to manage, but the stress part of the equation is, how am I sleeping? What types of foods am I putting in my body? Am I recovering from stress, as in workouts, as in like managing the fact that I do carry like a job and a household and finances and all of that sort of stuff? Because, this day and age, women do carry the majority of the mental load for their household. You're managing the kids' schedules, your own schedule, you're packing lunches, finances, cleaning the house, and you're working full time and maybe two jobs. So I think a lot of women, kind of even myself, when I talk to potential clients, like, how would you rate the stress in your life? Well, it's not, it's just, it is what it always is. And it's like, I think a lot of times we have this threshold that we just think is normal. So we're like, it's normal, but it's not really normal. It's just that it's common to be having all of these responsibilities, but it's not normal. And your body, again, will be having a difficult time helping you meet your composition goals because of that, but also can cause some, again, medical issues down the road. I always say dis-ease causes disease. So if we're not managing our stress in all of these facets, it's going to rear its ugly head somehow in our body.
Oh my gosh. Yes. It's so good. And I loved, before we even started recording
Mhm.
we were chatting a little bit and you were like, yeah, this week's a little crazy, but I'm just I'm just
Yeah.
doing the things that I teach other people to do,
Yes. Yes.
with,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And, I share it all transparently in my stories too, because, I know you and I have talked, and was kind of the precipitating of this conversation is, we went through, I mean, aside from my own stuff, we as a family went through 5 years of basically straight hell. My sister is a two-time cancer survivor, and she was
Mm,
diagnosed in 2017 with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And she was a perfect example of how I believe stress gave her cancer. She was in a very unhealthy marriage.
mm.
She ended up, and even her oncologist, when we met, I remember we were like, what, was there anything that she did? Because it was lymphoma, and there's really not, that's not like, oh, you smoked or you did anything. And they're like, basically it's the shit luck cancer is kind of how she described it. But she said, we all have these cells in our body, and what happens is eventually some go rogue, and that's really what cancer is. They just grow exponentially and often can be induced by stress and unmanaged stress. And so I am a firm believer that that is the reason that she got it. And then she got treatment, she went to remission, and then just about a year later, it came back. And again, I do think we're always very grateful for it in our family. We said cancer was kind of a blessing because she hadn't left her relationship at that point. And it was the second time that I think pushed her over the edge to, when she healed, to say, wow, like I got a second chance at life, like now a third chance at life, actually, like I'm not going back to that situation. So, but for even for myself, walking through that, as she's like my best friend, I call her my pseudo twin. We look exactly alike.
Aw.
So that was really what precipitated me really actually living a new lifestyle where stress management became a pillar. I started working with a holistic health coach at that time. That's when I first, from a personal standpoint, realized like I had a lot of work to do with stress management for myself. I mean, my kids were still little. I was still working multiple jobs. We were moving homes, to be on the same street as her because, yay, we'll raise our kids together. Little did we know, like it was very helpful for us to be here, when she was sick.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
and yeah, so that's really what shifted my own personal approach. And I really recognize like, it's not about just getting up and beating yourself into the ground in your workout every day. Like you need to recover, you need to manage your stress. Otherwise, like life will beat you down,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have to ask really quick, how many years are between you and your sister?
Not even two, we're 20 months apart.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
I was like the pseudo twins. I have an older sister there's like
Yeah.
3.5 between us, and I feel the
Yeah.
same way. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, pseudo twins.
Mhm.
Which she did not care for when she was a freshman in college. I was a freshman in high school, and she was like,
Oh, yeah.
that's not cool. But now we like love it. So
And now she's probably like, oh, yeah, I look so young. And
yeah.
yeah.
But would you even talk to that point too of like the woman who is maybe wanting the body composition,
Mhm.
has the body composition goals, but like the people that you've talked with as well
Mhm.
of like, but I want the health, but I really want the body composition, and just talking
Yeah.
about how stress really affects the body composition
Yeah.
part too.
Yeah. And I think that's where women need to understand more is that the managing stress will only improve your body composition. And if you're struggling with body composition and you have a high stress life, that is undoubtedly one of the contributing factors because, what I teach on inside my program, I call them my 6 pillars of a healthy metabolism. And it's nutrition, movement, sleep, stress, gut health, and mindset. And stress, like we talked about, is your body's kind of protective mechanism. So, the PT in me kind of likes to give this analogy, like you sprain an ankle, what happens? It swells, right? That inflammation is your body's way of walling off the area to protect it. So when we have high stress in our life that does not ever calm down or get mitigated, we end up with like systemic inflammation. It's like that response to just pat off that ankle, but like in your entire body. So if your metabolism felt a perceived stress, like would it make sense that it would release its stored energy or fat, like I like to say? It's like that's its cushion, that's its protection. It's sensing a danger and it's not wanting to let that go. You could even go so far back and you think about way back in the day, there's no the predators, you hear this all the time, like getting chased by a lion, right? If that's your fight or flight response, your stress response, and it's supposed to happen, and then it's supposed to go away after that predator and that danger is gone. But nowadays, the predators are, right, like just all the day-to-day stress that piles up and doesn't really ever seem to go away, and it doesn't come back down. And so your body is stuck in that mode of fight or flight. And do you think someone's body is worried about like burning fat when it's running from a lion? Like, no, it's worried about survival. So if you're under constant stress with no relief, your body is not worried about your desire to have a flat stomach or 6-pack abs. Like your body is worried about keeping you alive to manage this stress. So it is, if you have body composition goals, it's not that stress should come last. It actually should come like top of the list because it will outweigh anything you're doing with your workouts and your nutrition, because again, it's a survival response.
Yeah. And I think that's a great analogy of like, it's not gonna like looking at body fat and like
Yeah.
correlating to inflammation from something like a
Yes.
sprain. Cause
Yeah.
if you don't take care of the sprain, and take care of the inflammation, you're
Right.
not going to be able to get that down. Same
Right.
thing with
Right.
your stress
Right. And
and
it's not,
body
I
fat.
don't want anyone to perceive I'm talking about like body fat is inflammation, but
Yeah.
when you have systemic inflammation, yeah, it's like that protective kind of response where your body's not going to prioritize getting rid of those fat stores because it's thinking, well, I'm in danger. I might need to save these for a certain time.
Yeah. Well, and even like then on the health side,
Mhm.
like the rates of, I was actually just listening to a Callie Means podcast on Joe
Mhm.
Rogan,
Yeah.
and they were talking about all the stats. I don't have all the numbers off the top of my head, but just the rates of like, early onset Alzheimer's going
Mhm.
up, and she, someone in our family just got diagnosed with dementia, and then type 2 diabetes, like
Diabetes. Yeah. My father was the same.
one and two,
Yeah.
like 50%. I'm like, that is crazy. And
And
I'm
you
like,
can see it in kids nowadays too, which is crazy. I look at my kids in school and stuff. I'm like, there's little kids that have that look of a pot-bellied older adult, right? Like that body, it's so sad. And, my dad was a big precipitating factor for me too. When he was 55, he got diagnosed with diabetes. And of course, at first he was very good, like diet and exercise. And then eventually that gets old and it's like, well, I'll just take my insulin and have my cake. And he was a metabolic nightmare. And that was really the start of his demise. I like to say he ended up with, again, high blood pressure, heart failure, AFib. He ended up with 2 types of cancer himself, and he passed in 2023. And he was like my person. Like I miss his soul so much. But it was like to watch that and the quality of his life, because he in his mind was very active, right? He was my coach for softball when we were growing up. I know he
Oh,
loved being outside playing catch with the kids and doing those things. And he lost that ability for the last like 5 years of his life. And to watch that, it's like a blessing and a curse to have like the foresight as a younger woman to see
mhm.
what's coming. But if we don't know what's coming, sometimes we do feel invincible. We're just going about our life, not realizing that eventually it will catch up to us, which
Oh
is,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
you're like, I would never, like, I wish it wasn't this way where I'm like seeing this like foresight of what it would be
right.
because I don't want that. But then you're also like, okay, I want to do something differently.
Right. Yeah. One of the patients that stands out in my mind when I was actually like in my 20s working in a rehab, she had a stroke and she was a woman that inhabited a larger body and she couldn't stand because she couldn't use one side of her body. So I was trying to teach her you would teach people how to slide basically across a board from like a wheelchair onto a mat. And she just like, she couldn't inch her bottom. And I remember her breaking down and crying and just saying, Christina, I only wish we knew to take care of ourselves the way you do now. And I was in my 20s. I'm like, yeah, it's like we know, but I wasn't doing it, right? Like
Yeah.
people know, but we're not doing it. But then to watch that play out like 20, 30, 40 years later in front of your eyes. And I was like, oh my God, right? Like, yeah, what I do now is going to determine like the kind of quality of life that I have as I age and with my kids and my grandkids and all that stuff. And so you can't unsee that stuff. So, and I know not everyone gets to see it, which is why I'm big on spreading the word because, just even if it's an inkling in the back of your head, right? That it's like, yeah, I want to look good now, but really, it's really cool if I can stand up from a chair without help when I'm 90. Like that's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, okay, it's cool to like look fit now, but what's really
Yeah.
cool or even cooler
Yeah.
is
So I can
standing up
walk
from a
myself to the
chair.
bathroom when I'm
Yeah.
older. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that man, that's it for me too now. I feel like as I get more mature in my health
Yes.
journey, I'm like, I just want to be able to do the simple tasks when I'm
Yes.
older. Like that's a
Yes.
goal. Like
Yeah, it sounds so crazy, but it does. And that's one thing I think too for women, it's like sometimes we get caught up in, because most of my clients are around my age, like, 40s, 50s, some late 30s. But I think where the struggle comes for a lot of women is that they perceive what they have to do to get into shape now is the same things they had to do like in their 20s and 30s, which number one will not
Mhm.
work. I can kind of get into why. But number two, a lot of people like, I just don't know why I can't bring myself to go back and do that. I'm like, because that sucks, right? Like sometimes like we don't want, that's not the quality of life we want now either. Like values do change and you have to change your approach with your values. Like I know when I was in my 20s and I didn't have kids, sure, I could eat 1,200 calories and spend an hour on the elliptical. That doesn't work for my life right now. So it's like, I think the thought that if that, where a lot of women think that they have to do those types of things, they're like, well, screw it. I guess I can't meet my goals because I can't do that. I'm like, no, you're not going to start if that's what you perceive you have to do. So let's take a different route. But the other change
Yeah.
that is what majorly happens with our female physiology in our 40s is that we become more stress sensitive, right? So we're not as resilient. So those things that worked in the past where you want to drop 10 pounds and you could just cut some carbs and do some extra cardio, those are actually going to increase the stress on your metabolism now. And that is what's making you feel puffy and not like you're losing weight. And that's kind of where I had to learn the hard way because I do love to exercise. And when my sister was
Mhm.
sick, I was like, man, I'm like eating, exercising. I keep getting puffier and puffier, right? And it's like, that was the stress. But meanwhile, in my head, I was like, well, I can't take a day off now because then what'll happen? I'll really blow up. I didn't
Mm.
understand that what I was doing, like working out 7 days a week and, eating low carb and all that. I didn't really understand that because my body was changing, that those sort of things were actually a stressor and they were moving me against my body goals instead of towards it.
Instead of tourism. Yeah. I actually had an interview recently with Vince Pitstick. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
He's in the functional health space, but
Yeah.
said something too that was and works with a lot of women. And but that's like empowering, where it's like he's like, you're not weaker because you're affected more by your emotions. Like that's like your superpower. Like,
Yeah,
because if you can control your emotions, your stress, that kind of stuff, you can
yeah,
have a positive impact
yeah,
on your
right.
body and
Your body.
physiology. But I
Mhm.
think we don't use that empowerment, and we're just like ignore it of the
Yeah, no,
stress. Yeah.
that's a big on my approach is like, I just want to empower women. That's why I come from a place of teaching, not telling. I will never hand someone a meal plan. I just will never do that because I'm like, give a man a fish he eats once, like teach a man a fish
Yeah.
he eats life. So if I can teach you about how your body works so that you can, number one, understand the language of your metabolism and what it's trying to tell you. Because yeah, you might not be happy that it's telling you you can't handle 7 days a week of working out and you need to eat a little more, but then it empowers you to say, like, I know what my body's saying now. So I don't have to go chasing these diets and things that aren't working and wondering what's wrong with me. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's those approaches don't fit your body anymore. But when you learn how your body is speaking to you and then how to give it what it needs, it's so freeing because then you're like, oh, I don't ever have to worry about any of these trends or should I do that or this? Because it's like, because you know, and then you always know if you can feel your body going, like you said, out of whack a little, you can course correct much easier with your behaviors of your nutrition and your workouts and your stress management and your sleep. And that is very liberating and empowering when you finally get to that point.
So empowering. And could you share too, like because I think coming from a fellow more type A planner,
Yes.
overachiever female,
Mhm.
that's a lot of people listening.
Yeah.
Like how to one, just any tips for stress management, like whether
Mhm.
that's nutrition, lifestyle,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
any
Mhm.
overview general stuff, but then also how to like mentally, because it is so hard. I mean, I came from the over exercising, binging,
Mhm.
restricting. I'm more
Yeah.
type A. I get FOMO when I don't work out, like those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you actually like, okay, pull back with like
Yes.
keeping your sanity too?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm gonna,
Yeah.
gosh, I have so many thoughts in this. So my first thought is for the person that like loves to work out, like you and I, because I think when you hear I got to pull back on my workouts, most of them are like, but that's my stress relief, right? And my
Yeah.
mental state, right? And that's my me time. It is too. And it took me years to realize this, that I just needed to keep the same me time, but do something different.
Mm.
So the whole idea is when I say stress management, I really mean nervous system regulation. So we have two arms of our nervous system. We have the sympathetic, which is your fight or flight. That's like your stress nervous system. We have the parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest, and they cannot be firing at the same time. So most of us run around in sympathetic overdrive, like we're in go mode from the minute we wake up to the minute we go to bed, right? So the whole idea is we're not going to eliminate every stressor in your life, but we're going to intermittently activate that parasympathetic nervous system as much as possible because then the sympathetic can't be on, right? So it's not
Mm.
about stress management, isn't about getting rid of your stressors because you've got kids, you've got a job, like that stuff is, you can't help that you're stuck in traffic, like that stuff isn't going away. But what we can do is regulate our nervous system by intercepting that and activating the parasympathetic. So I know I need my me time. Like I was never the mom that was like exercising on social media with like her kid on her hip. No, I was like, this is mommy's time. Like this is my time without you. And I'll say that wholeheartedly to, if you can, great, but it's for me to be alone. So I kept my same me time every morning because I needed that for sanity. But instead, what I did is 4 days a week, I did my weightlifting. The other three, I did yoga or foam rolling or a recovery session or a stretch session. So when people hear that, it's like, but I can't pull back. I need that time for my sanity. Yeah, definitely keep that time. We want to start saying, but can I take 4 days a week in a sympathetic state of exercise and the other 3 days in a parasympathetic state? So whether that be,
Mm.
like I said, yoga, and I'm not talking an aggressive like hot vinyasa, I'm talking about a gentle yoga that again is not increasing the stress on your system. So you could do yoga, you could do gentle walking, you could do, meditation, just legs up against the wall, like that kind of stuff. So my first thing is like when it comes to lifestyle, like let's take what you're already doing, but then make that time work for you. So that would be the first thing is then we pull stress off your system from the exercise standpoint. When it comes to nutrition, things you can do to pull stress off your system are not skip meals, not fast longer than 12 to 14 hours, eating mostly whole foods, that kind of stuff is important. When it comes to actual stress management of like the perceived stress that we
Mm.
feel, I think the most easy thing to do is breath work. I always say that's like the gateway drug into stress management because again, breath work is like the easiest way to activate, the quickest and most direct way to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So if you do 3 deep breaths, like belly breaths, immediately you've put yourself into a parasympathetic state and come out of the sympathetic. And you can do breath work anywhere. You don't need time. You don't need to be hiding out in like a closet on your own. Like I do it sometimes when my kids are running around like crazy at night and I just need, to center myself. So I like to have my clients start with 4 squared breaths. So inhaling for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, exhaling for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4. And to make that work for your life as a busy woman, I'm big on habit stacking. So it's like, I don't want to have to think that I have to do this. So we just stack it onto things you're already doing. So you're already waking up and you're already going to bed. So those are my first 2 places, because I say if you can control your bookends, like how you enter the day and how you
Mm,
exit the day, the stress load you'll feel from the craziness in between that you can't control is going to be lower. So I
mm.
always say your alarm goes off. That's your cue. Before you get out of bed, you're going to put a hand on your chest, a hand on your belly, and do 5 squared breaths. And then at the end of the night, light goes off, you crawl into bed. That's your cue. And I promise you'll fall asleep quicker.
Yeah.
Five. And then I like to have them do it once in the middle of the day, preferably right before lunch, because then when we eat, we're supposed to be in, guess what? Rest and digest mode. And so if we're eating in sympathetic mode, we end up having all this sometimes gas, bloating, like cravings. It just doesn't feel good. So I usually will have women start with those 3 times a day, squared breathing, morning, night, and then in the middle before lunch. So that's usually like the
So good.
first habit. So just doing that, taking some of your more aggressive exercise time and bringing it back to some parasympathetic state. And then from a nutrition standpoint, making sure you're not under eating too severely, skipping meals, or going too long of a fast, because those are all stressors. So those would be like the 3 top things I would say would be like the place to get started. And then just like
So good.
working out, how it's like the desire to do that and the energy that comes from it is a byproduct, right? We know that, right? We feel better when we work out. When you start to realize like, oh my God, my body is responding to this, right? Like it's not only maybe that puffiness kind of goes away, and I also feel more rested, then I'm sleeping better, I'm a kinder human. Like I just, things don't feel as overwhelming. Then it becomes like, I want to do this more. And then we can layer in like additional stress habits. But those are like the first few that I think are probably the primary kind of get started stress management pack for everybody.
So good. And I'm like, those could take someone a while to just get a handle
Oh,
on
hell
those
yeah.
things.
And I think this is where I come from, the point where like understand, it's why I educate people how the metabolism works. Because for someone to just say cut back on your exercise, you're gonna be like, no. But when you understand the physiology of the body, like I always say, weight loss is, in my world, biology and psychology brought together. So it's like in order to have the psychology piece, meaning like I'm actually okay pulling back and trying something that I'm scared of. If you understand the biology and how your body works, or if you want to call it physiology and psychology, then it makes it like, okay, I understand it. I can see it logistically. So I'm going to give it a try. Right. And then when you
Mhm.
start to, again, see how your body responds, then it can be like, I get it. Now I want to do more of this. And that's kind of what happened to me. The first time I took a break from working out 7 days a week and started doing, I did like 3 weeks of yoga. I think I dropped like 5 pounds. I'm like, what the hell is this? And that was, I was like, my body was saying like, stop over exercising,
So good. Oh my gosh. And the psychology piece. Cause like you said
Mhm.
earlier, like everyone would be super fit or in shape if it
Yeah.
wasn't for the mental side of
Yeah.
things. And the type A overachiever woman out there, like I think the comprehending the why
Yes,
of the
exactly.
psychology makes you
Yes.
want to be more compliant
Correct. Yeah.
versus
Yeah. And I think that's why I went through 5 different cycles of like, that's it. I'm done dieting. I'm done under eating. And then like, I'm just going to do mindful eating. But like, without knowing that, I'm like, I didn't even know how did I even know how to be in touch with any of my hunger cues? I mean, nothing like, and I didn't feel safe doing that because I didn't understand the body and how it worked. So it's like, once you understand that and you understand the role that stress plays in your metabolism and why it's so important, then yeah, the overachiever in you can say, I'm going to get my breath working today because it's like, and then you realize like I see how it's going to benefit me now.
yes. Oh my gosh. For the longest time, I was one of those people. I was like, I ain't got time for breath work, and I don't really
Yeah.
need it. It's not a
No.
big deal.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, it is the gateway. I'm like, and it's like one of the quickest returns. Like you
Yes.
said, you can
Yeah.
go to
Exactly. And you can do
parasympathetic
it
so quickly.
anytime. I like now I feel like there's not a time I'm driving my car where I'm not doing it. It's like habitual. If you were like in a meeting at work or in your office, like you can do it anytime, anywhere. And I think I always say you're one breath away from just like recentering. So it's like the tool that you just need to have in your back pocket and actually pull out to use.
Yes. And I mean the square breathing, like I'm
Mhm.
like, good luck getting through 5 rounds of that before
Oh
falling
yeah.
asleep
Hmm.
because it's that
Yeah.
helpful. that
Yes.
quickly.
Yeah,
And for me,
absolutely.
like with backing off of working out, like I was a 7 day workout girl for a long time. And I'm like walking, like you said, like
Mhm.
just more
Yeah.
leisurely walking, not
Yeah.
trying to get like your heart rate way up. But
Right.
that like it, most people think, oh, I can't work out. I just have to like go sit on the couch like a potato.
Right.
It's like
Right.
there's an in between that
Yes.
we can
And
find.
walking is, yeah, so good because it's, increases your NEAT, your non-exercise activity. So you're burning calories, but it's parasympathetic. And not if you're like on an incline with a weighted vest, like I'm just going to say that. But like get out in nature, right? Then you're double doing the stress management. Walk barefoot on the grass, you're getting grounding. Like there's so many other things that can be kind of like double doing the stress management while you walk that are amazing. And then again, you just start to feel good and you sleep better and your body responds. And then it's like, okay, so it wasn't that my body stopped working in my 40s. It's like I didn't know how to work with it. And once you do, then all these results come, not just again for your physical body, but for that long-term health that you're looking for now.
Yes, the body composition and the
Mm,
longevity. Well,
yes.
and in the longevity line too, I know we're kind of coming up on time here,
Yeah.
but um, you had mentioned something in our voice messages back and forth before recording, as far as disease prevention, and especially certain
Mhm.
generations,
Mhm.
feeling like
Mhm.
it's kind of more of like a fixed versus growth
Yes.
mindset. And that, could you speak to that a little bit on like how much control we could
Mhm.
have with disease prevention, that fixed and growth mindset, all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is something I saw, especially with my father when he was ill. And so I say this from personal experience and also with patients that I worked with for years. And I think the older generation, there is that mindset of like, well, I'm here and it is you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I'm not going to change what I'm eating. I'm not going to change what I'm doing. But honestly, the minute you do, you have benefit because a lot of our inflammation and disease, it all starts from like I can pull it back down to even blood sugar imbalance, right? So having imbalanced blood sugar is one of the uh, number one causes of inflammation, right? And then once that it not only again impedes your goals now, but then it's going to trigger all of those inflammatory responses in your body that then lead to metabolic disease. So simply changing the way you eat now, which is not complicated, right? Can pull inflammation off of your body. And like I said, inflammation, I mean, if you listen to Dr. Casey Means, you know this, I'm sure you hear inflammation is like it's the root cause of every disease out there known to man. And then when you think about it, also lack of sleep is like the number one root cause of all disease. So, because we heal when we sleep, our body regenerates when we sleep. So, things that we're it's not like you're asking somebody of I always say when I'm working with someone of more of that fixed mindset, I'm not asking you to go overhaul your whole life. You sleep anyway, so can we make that better? You eat anyway, so can we just shift how you're pairing your macronutrients so that your blood sugar stays balanced, right? Those sort of things, because as soon as you shift some of these things and you start to decrease inflammation in your body, you decrease the risk of a myriad of diseases that could be coming on that continuum of metabolic dysfunction, like diabetes and heart disease and high blood pressure and all of those sort of things. So I think that we are in a world where Western medicine isn't worried until you're in a disease state, and then it requires a medication. Where functional, we come from the standpoint of like, where do you feel optimal? And everything is on a continuum. So if we're inching towards that continuum of disease, let's actually change some habits so we can inch back away. Like it's not a black and white line. It really is a continuum. To me, you're either moving closer to disease or farther away. And the way to kind of reverse the trajectory there is through lifestyle, and it's never too late. Never too late.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'd like just keep
Mhm.
going. Preach.
Yeah. Preach. Yeah.
No, because I'm like so passionate about this. So, like in my own, like we both shared, like it's one of my own new goals and incentives. Like I don't even hard like, yes, I still care about having a lean
Yeah.
fit body, but really it's getting out of a chair. It's like so many people close to me, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, like, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, and it's just that it's such an it can be such an empowering thought that we do have some say or some control
Yes.
over that
Mhm.
outcome. But it's very frustrating from the loved one standpoint when you want that for someone else and trying to
That is
get,
one thing I've
get
learned
them
the
to
hard
see
way.
it.
Yeah, you cannot want for someone else. So I think the best, supportive family member is just to again, like I say, even as a coach, lead by example, practice what you preach, explain to them. But, and then if it is a family member, like a parent, like help, right? Like I'll take you grocery shopping, like let me kind of plan out some meals for you, those sort of things. But you can't force it. And I think
Yeah.
since a lot of your listeners are probably like myself in a sandwich generation where you're caring for kids and parents, I always say for your own stress management, you have to understand that you cannot own that behavior for somebody else.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, and these are mantras I use to myself, and I teach a lot of my clients who are going through helping someone they love go through something. And I had a couple mantras that really, I feel like, saved my life. And one was, I help, but I don't hold, meaning I will help you out, but I
Oh,
am not
that's so good.
holding like the responsibility for this. And I care, but I do not carry. Like I care about you, but I'm not carrying the weight of the situation if you are not going to do something. And those two mantras, I just, they were on repeat in my head for many, many years because I'd be like, well, God, I want to fix this for this person that I love, and it's like, we can't do that. And then when we know what we know about our own health, carrying the stress of that for somebody else is detrimental to you, right? So it's like I always say now with my clients, like I've been through it, and so my job is to help support you in not holding the stress because we know what stress can do to you. So it's like that is a real challenge as a caregiver for a parent and a child or anybody that you love. So I always say, help, but don't hold the energy and the responsibility for it, and care for them, but don't carry the weight of that on you because there's only so much that you can do, and you have to take care of your own health first and foremost, or you're no good to anyone else anyway.
That's so good. We could end the episode right there. That's so
Yeah.
good. No,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just like help, but don't hold and carry,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
care, but don't
Care, but
carry.
don't carry. Yeah. Yeah. And that's
Yes.
just something I live by and I teach all the time.
That's so good. So, so good. Is there anything else you would add for the conversation around stress and body composition or disease prevention? Anything
Oh
else we
my
haven't touched
goodness.
on?
Like you said, I could probably talk like I could talk forever. But yeah, I would just say, I mean, the one thing I would remember is that the two can coexist, right? Like I said, health and
Mm,
that optimal body can coexist, but your approach to finding that optimal body has to be health first, right? Because if it's all in how we go about it. And yeah, I don't know that there's much more to add without going off on more tangents, but just
yeah.
know that you can have both. You just have to go about it the right way.
Yes. Oh, so good. Well, thank you so much for your time. Where can everyone reach you if they want
Yeah.
to learn more
Yep. You
or
can
connect
find
with
me
you?
on Instagram at its_Christina_McClurken. So I'm sure you'll write it in the show notes. Not an
Yep.
easy one. And my website is yourhealthybestie.com.
Love
And those
it.
are probably the two main places to
I,
connect.
I I love it. Your healthy bestie. I saw that and I was like, that's so cute.
It's kind of what I am. I always tell my clients, I'm like, just like having a little bestie in your back pocket. And I won't say, I promise.
Your healthy bestie.
Yep.
Awesome. I will put those in the show notes for you
Yeah.
guys. And Christina, thank you so much for your time today. It's
Oh
been
my gosh. Thank
awesome.
you so much for having me. It's like such a great conversation and I think so needed out there. So I appreciate you bringing
Yes.
it to the table.